Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Mission Talk, where we talk everything missions from across the street to around the world. And we also want to put a disclaimer in this video, and we will be talking about human trafficking today and an organization that fights that. So due to the nature and the content of the discussion, this video may not be suitable for young viewers. So please watch and view at your discretion. And now we are going to take a trip a little down south to our neighbor in Kentucky. I have joined with me today from Agape International Missions. I have with me Mark Graham. Mark, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, and excited just for the conversation we're going to have.
Yes, Mark. So I first got connected with you. We talked on the phone. It's probably been about 2 weeks ago. And you told me a little bit about what you do and the organization. And so ever since then, you sent me a lot of material to dig through, and I have done that for the past 2 weeks. And I have been eye-opened, I guess is the best term, because I always know of I have an idea of what you do, but the more and more I dig in, the more and more my eyes are open to how much someone like me who wants to dig into this didn't even know about the issues that are at hand and what you guys are doing to help and be the hands and feet of Jesus and bring people out of this. So, Mark, before we dive in really deep to the main topic, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So I'm a kid from Miamisburg. I grew up over in Ohio, so not far from you all there in Wilmington. I have a long history at Butler Springs. So love the camp. So my growing up years drove through Wilmington every single summer on my way to Butler Springs. Ended up going to Cincinnati Christian University, and then spent about 20 years doing pastoral ministry, missions, youth ministry, a little bit of young adult ministry, and then a campus pastor. So got a chance to wear a number of different hats, worked in churches in Indiana, Kentucky, and Las Vegas. And so now find ourselves back here in Northern Kentucky and on the team with AIM. So married, it'll be 20 years this summer, and we've got 3 boys, and we are in the throes of just, kids activities and all the fun stuff that comes with that. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, can you give us just an overview before we dive in deep to what your organization does specifically? Can you give us an overview about what your organization is about?
So AIM, we always shorten it to AIM. So Agape International Missions, we use AIM. So obviously through our conversation, we'll probably use AIM a whole lot. So over at the 5,000-foot view of AIM, we are taking on the battle of human trafficking, fighting against human trafficking. And so we have a 4-pillar approach, and I know we'll dive into those more specifically, but this has kind of been the learning that we've had over the years, is that it takes a holistic approach to truly eradicate it. And so we do rescue, heal, empower, and protect. And so we have different ministries and programs that exist within each one of those pillars. That's kind of the 5,000-foot view of what we do. And kind of specifically, we're working in Cambodia and starting a new work in the country of Belize this year. So that is in the starting phases currently.
How did you come to get involved with this organization?
So when I was on staff at a church out in Las Vegas, we had just started to get to know who AIM was. We had one of the guys on our staff had worked with the co-founders back in California at a point in time. And so he had said, hey, we need to get to know AIM. And so we sent a team over in probably 2013 to go check out the work in Cambodia. And I was already aware of human trafficking a little bit. I had learned about it during my youth ministry years. There was a video at a summer event that kind of was eye-opening for me of like, I didn't realize this was happening. I didn't know the gravity of the whole situation. And so I was very interested in the work being done to fight it. And so when our church took a trip I asked the team that went, man, I had a ton of questions. What was it like? What was the experience? What did you see? Like all of that. So then in 2014, I got the chance to sign up for the next team that was going back. And so 2014, we prepped in the fall of 2014. And then the February of 2015, got a chance to take my first trip over to Cambodia. And ultimately took 4 trips over 2015, 16, 17, and 18. Going over, I got to lead a few of those teams, got a chance just to serve in a number of the prevention and protection ministries and programs with AIM. And so that's how I got to know AIM. I mean, it really became personal for me, just being there and seeing things. It's just one of those times where you see things you don't unsee or you don't forget, just different experiences from, things you see on the street to, just crazy scenarios that play out that you're like, wait, what? Did we just see that? Is that really what just happened? Is that? And you find yourself dealing with a whole bunch of anger. But then there's this interesting side where in getting to do ministry with AIM during this time, you got to see a ton of light. You got to see a ton of hope. You got to see a ton of just God at work, where a number of the buildings that AIM at the time I was going was doing ministry in had been former brothels or had been built to be a hotel for pedophiles, but are now either they're a church, they're ministry centers, and so you saw this redemptive work that God was doing. And so it's just this tension that you dealt with of light and dark competing at the same time. And so for me, it was just, I knew, like, I'm just wired in that way of like, I just knew I had to do something. And so, yeah, so this opportunity really came back last year for me to join AIM's team. And for me, it was like, yeah, I would love to. Absolutely. So that's kind of a condensed version of all of that. But I mean, it's just really something that kind of grabbed hold of my heart a number of years ago, and it just kind of stuck with me, in just the sense of like, I have to do something. I can't stand by. I can't unknow the things that I know. I have to do something. So that's really kind of what compelled me to kind of step into, joining this team.
I can just from hearing that little snippet of your story, I can see where God was moving you the whole time to where you're at now. And a part of that, a part of a lot of people's stories is you got to be the boots on the ground. And that's where God really opens your eyes on where he wants you to go. So with having your boots actually on the ground, you said there is some things that you can't unsee, or there's some things that, some things that was just really eye-opening. Is there an experience that comes to mind you don't mind sharing with us of something that you've seen that you were like really eye-opening?
You take it. So it was interesting. We were walking a street one night, and we used to stay in the capital city, and so we were out kind of taking a walk around and checking out some of the markets and just kind of exploring. And I remember walking down the street, and I was with our group. We were just kind of walking. Everybody's looking in all the different directions, and so I'm looking over at just the market on one side of the street, and my friend was looking at the other side of the street. And so a few minutes later, we kind of recounted what we were observing, and I just remember him saying, I just saw someone bring in a group of gals, of females, to this table and assign them seats to sit at by these guys that are sitting around a table. And I was like, what? I was looking to the right, you were looking to the left, and just the different things we were observing just right there in plain sight. There was one evening, we were standing outside of our hotel waiting to go to dinner, and I can vividly remember there was a guy walking down the street, walking hand in hand with a Cambodian boy, and I just remember immediately clicked, that's not right. This is wrong. There are times in your life where you just see things that you go like, that's just not right. Well, this is one of those times for me where it was like, this isn't right. And again, I'm a father of boys. And so that kind of really hit me in a different way than other experiences I had had. And it was like, I can remember he didn't have shoes on. He was carrying a stuffed animal, and he walked down the street. I don't remember what the guy looked like. I don't even know that I ever saw his face. I just saw the kid, and I just remember thinking, it's not right. And so, yeah, there's things like that. And again, we have other stories of just seeing, people in restaurants and seeing just so many scenarios where you just look at it and you're like, that's not right. Like, that's just, it looks so out of place. Like, how is, you're looking at like, how is no one else, like, am I the only one seeing this? And so they're just unsettling moments where, even as I'm sharing it, like I still find myself like just getting amped up at those moments. So those are probably a couple examples of just times where, you're just unsettled at your core. And that's really how I would explain it is you just find yourself just, you're almost without words. You're almost, you have an inner conflict of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel in this moment. And so there's definitely multiple experiences like that over the time. Yeah. And we could, really rabbit trail into those, but yeah.
Can you give us just a background of how Agape got started?
So our co-founders are Don and Bridget Brewster. Mm-hmm. They had taken a trip over in early 2000s to do some missionary work. They were going over to support some pastors in Cambodia. And they had traveled around the country and visited and just done a lot of encouragement work. And upon returning home out to California, where they were from, they saw a documentary on child sex trafficking in Cambodia and were completely blown away because they said, we didn't see that. Like it was almost shocking to them that this was all of a sudden a thing. And so that was kind of the catalyst and springboard for them to get to the point of like, well, we have to do something. And so they started a kind of a plan of, we're going to go in, we're going to do an aftercare home. And even early on, they were kind of met with this resistance of, they developed a really good plan and they brought it to some NGO leaders and they were asked, are you a teacher? Are you a counselor? Like, do you have all these qualifications? And they were like, no. And the guy was, the person they were meeting with was like, well, it's probably best if you just went home and just sent money. And so ultimately, they really felt compelled and called to do this. And so they set the plan in motion and they started, moved over in 2005. And so we opened our first aftercare home around 2005, 2006, with the anticipation of it was going to take probably maybe a couple of years to fill it. And we were full within just a matter of months. And that was a clear indication of like, we have to figure out how to holistically address this issue because we can rescue as many girls as possible, but someone will always fill that spot until we can address the issue as a whole. And so that really kind of began the learning process that ultimately led to the development of our 4-pillar approach, the holistic approach that we take today. So yeah, and each one of those kind of developed over time and different things have opened, but that's really kind of our roots is just people who are willing to say yes to God, where they felt deeply compelled to do something, but ultimately, wrestled with that. Am I qualified? And, but still said, you know what, we have to say yes. Like we can't not say yes. This is really where we feel God's calling. And so what we've seen is every step of the way, God's provided somebody who was there to help us transition into whatever else we needed to add or open or pull together. God put somebody in that place every step of the way who was qualified, so it's just been an incredible journey of just seeing God continually show up and just provide in times where we were like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And so, yeah.
So Mark, you talked about the 4-pillar approach. And this might be a more of a probably a lengthy answer on your part, but we'll probably go off on some different areas on this. But can you walk us through the 4 pillars and walk us through on experiences of how these have been applied, at least from your perspective or perspective that you know of?
Yeah, so rescue. We have a SWAT team, an actual active SWAT team that is doing raids, working with local law enforcement. It's been an incredible tool. It started back in 2014. Prior to that, we were doing rescues with different partner organizations, but ultimately had one that was kind of the one that sparked our SWAT team. We had a raid that got tipped off. And there was a gal who had contacted us and really had given us the information about the brothel and really had prompted the raid. It took 3 days to organize the raid. During that 3 days, the brothel owner was tipped off. The girls were all moved. And so when we show up to do the raid, no one's there. So we scrambled to figure out where she was, where they'd been moved to, all of this. And it took us 22 days to do the raid. And so we go in, we did the raid, rescued the girls. And so ultimately during that time though, you think 22 days, like, wow, that's a really short period of time. Like that's great. But during the 22 days, she was trafficked 198 times. And that kind of really led us to, and we say it often as a team, it's one girl is too many and one day is too long. And so that was the catalyst that started the SWAT team. And so it's kind of like, we can't let another raid be tipped off. Like we have to ensure that this is, these are effective and these are happening. So that started the SWAT team. And so we work with Cambodian law enforcement, and it's been an incredible partnership. And, so since then we've rescued, been a part of over 1,500 rescues and 440 arrests during that time. So that's rescue. That's the rescue pillar. Under our heal pillar, that's aftercare. So we have aftercare, a large aftercare facility, and then a few transition homes that just kind of help girls at different stages of the aftercare process. The goal is safe reintegration back into communities, maybe back into with their families if possible. But ultimately helping them step back into safe situations that are sustainable. And so aftercare is a combination of trauma-based cognitive behavioral therapy. It is education, vocational training. It's even the opportunity to work and earn a stipend. And so there's again different phases, and so the girls are a part of the process and get to work with their counselors, and they have house moms, and really here's the main thing: we want them to tangibly experience the transformative love of Jesus in and through our aftercare. We truly believe that's where the healing takes place. They have so many other, so many good things that are happening in the aftercare process, but we believe above all else, that is what is most transformative. And so that's interwoven, that's personified in and through the staff who's working with them. And so that's really key to our aftercare process, is that the love of Jesus is tangibly experienced by the girls who are in that aftercare. So that is heal. Empower is our reintegration process. So we want to help survivors transition back into vocational sustainability. Like we want them to help them get jobs. And so we actually have 2 employment centers where the survivors can grow their skills, have a job with sustainable wage, can continue to grow in education. There's multiple benefits that come along with the employment center. So employment centers, they learn garment making. So actually the shirt I have on, they made the shirt. They do jewelry making. And so these are skills that transition back into local communities, jobs they can take. Job skills they can take with them. The goal is ultimately sustainability for them, safe employment. And so reintegration and employment provides protection for women who would be susceptible to trafficking and those who have come out of trafficking. So that's empower. Protect. Our aim is, how do we prevent it before it ever happens? And so it's kind of twofold. We want to confront demand and we want to address vulnerabilities. So confronting demand, we actually have what's called the Lord's Gym. It's a Muay Thai boxing gym. And really the goal of that is to reach young men in the community. How do we change them from offenders into protectors? And so we have a coach that has a deep heart for discipleship and mentorship. And so he has really developed an incredible program that is developing young men. And he is an incredible coach. He has coached multiple national champions. Wow. He is a highly credible coach. but he also has a deep love of Jesus and a heart for discipleship. And so he is combining those, and we're seeing, life change coming to young men, to the point of we have a guy that's that has come up through the gym, come to know Jesus through the gym, and is ultimately raised up to like nationally famous status because of fighting. And so he uses his platform to share about Jesus now. And so it's just incredible to see that transformative work happening there. And so we have emergency family care that kind of steps in when there's need for things. We have the church. We have Rahab's House Church. So many of our ministries were actually started in and through the church. That was one of the earliest things that we began in the community. So they have a discipleship program that raises up young adults to develop leadership. And many of those have gone on to become AIM staff. We have about around 500 staff in Cambodia. They're Cambodians and through across all of our programs. And so just an incredible team there. And so many of our disciples, they call them the disciples, have come up and become part of our staff in many different capacities: teachers, social workers, media team, all kinds of stuff. Then we have the school, the AIM school. And so that's an English academy as well as an elementary school. So K through 6 and then English academy. So between the two, I think we're under 600 students in that. And just looking to add more grades each year, trying to get to 3 classrooms per grade. And I think we're at 2nd grade right now with 3. And so just continue to add 1 each year. And so our school is for the poorest of the poor. That's our main goal, is how do we continue to just do community transformation, invest as deeply in our community as possible, and offer as many opportunities as we can to those who would otherwise not have them. And so that's the priority of the school. And so, so the school's an incredible place. We just opened a new school back about 1.5 years ago. We're able to open a brand new one, which has just offered more capacity, more opportunity there. So those are the programs that we are running currently.
Do you know of any stories of someone who has been rescued and who has gone through the program and is now working somewhere in AIMS?
Yeah, so we've had a couple. So, and I'll probably maybe not use names just for their own sake.
Absolutely.
So we've had some gals who have, for example, have come through the program, worked in reintegration for a few years. Actually, worked on our employment center for Fuse, and was ultimately able to join our school staff. So she's actively on our school staff right now, and so just so she's part of that. We also have a number of gals who have gone through aftercare and are now social workers on the SWAT team. And so they have gone through the whole process. And so they're ultimately on the front lines of, they're the first people that those who are rescued are encountering. So, so that's been a pretty incredible thing. And ultimately, one of those things that we've internally gone, like, that's only something you can point to the transformative work of Jesus. Right. When you can see somebody who has gone through such, a traumatic situation come around, walk through a healing experience, and then be able to walk back into some of those same places and just love on those who have been rescued, knowing the experience they've just come out of, they're willing to walk back into that and help someone else walk out of it as well. And so we've have a number of survivors who have turned to abolitionists, who are social workers, teachers, working on the SWAT team. So they're on all areas of our ministry, different capacities. And so it's just been incredible to see that, because that's one thing. I was actually just talking about this with one of our team maybe 2 days ago on the phone. We were just talking about, that's something that's really kind of caught us here recently, of going, like, that's just not something that happens. Because a lot of times, we want to stay away from the situations that maybe we felt, were traumatizing or hurtful. And these incredible survivors are, walking back into them and lovingly walking with others out of it. And so it's just incredible to see. Yeah.
There are several great organizations out there that fight trafficking, but not all of them have the resources to have a SWAT team. What does the SWAT team kind of look like, just so we can kind of get a little bit of a visual on that?
So SWAT team only has one missionary staff on it.
Okay.
The rest are all Cambodian, and that's everything
Wow.
from the investigative side, the aftercare side, and the legal side is all Cambodian staff. And so, yeah, it's run like a SWAT team, and so everything from investigative work to gathering evidence, covert surveillance, to tip lines, to informants, all of those things that you feel like, oh, this is like a spy movie, and things like that. Those elements are present. They have to go through an approval process to get they have to present the evidence to get approval to go do the raids. So it's a legit operation, and so we've had organizations from the States come over and help do training. So that's been pretty incredible to see just other nonprofits join alongside of us to say, hey, we'll help with training, we'll help with just providing the necessary reinforcement type of thing. But it is operated and run by Cambodian law enforcement, and so so it's been a pretty incredible thing to see. Again, I think many probably would be like me. We're like, I'll sign up, I'll go. Like, let's do this. But what's been cool is to see the law enforcement, taking this on and doing this and making this happen. And so it's been a pretty incredible partnership and presented some amazing opportunities just to be a part of rescues and pulling people out of terrible situations. So yeah, SWAT team is pretty legit. But what's cool is beyond just like, kick a door down, go do an arrest. They have a aftercare element that the survivors experience right off the bat, right? Like it's the social workers who are walking in the doors of, we're going to start this process right here, right now. We're going to take care of you from the very beginning and help you, any way we can. Right from the start. And then there's also the legal side of, we're going to walk with you through the legal process. So if you ever need to testify, we're going to help you with that process. We're going to walk you through that whole thing. So the SWAT team isn't just bust the door down, but we're going to walk with you through this whole legal process. We're here. We're going to support you. We're going to help you through that whole, that whole part of the scenario.
I love the fact that you said only one of the people on the SWAT team is a missionary. The rest are Cambodian. And that shows that there is a level of morality there in Cambodia for people to say, we've had enough of this too, to want to get involved. And I know you've said the Cambodian government has locked arms with AIMS and said, we want to be a part. So can you give us a little insight on how the Cambodian government has come alongside and what kind of role they help play in this?
Our partnership has kind of been around really hinging on the law enforcement side of just working hand in hand with them during this process. There's also the government and the police have come to our SWAT team for help, just different things, or making us aware of other scenarios. Because our primary focus is rescuing victims of child sex trafficking. That's kind of the primary focus of our SWAT team, but we will assist in any trafficking situation. And so many times that's where some of those other situations come on our radar, is through our relationship with the government and the police. Is like, hey, here's a scenario. Would you help? Yes, we'll help. Because again, we have a primary focus, but that's kind of the relationship that we have. We also were able to do some different humanitarian aid work in the early stages of the pandemic with the government, of just trying to help more along the local level, of just doing some different things where, we wanted to be able to help provide for our communities where we are serving. And so just trying to, again, just cultivate a good, healthy relationship and be supportive of them and serve in any way we can. And so, yeah, it's been a really incredible opportunity that's opened a lot of doors to be a part of a number of different rescues that are, maybe outside of our primary focus, but we're still, we're there, we're all in. And, we say we'll do whatever it takes. And so that's kind of the mentality of the team, is like, hey, we're here. And if we can help any way we can, that's what we want to do.
Has the pandemic hindered the work there in any way?
I would say, there's always been a challenge of different lockdowns, and, currently Cambodia is experiencing a pretty significant lockdown and really having some challenges to navigate right now. And so over the course of the past year, our school has dealt with doing remote at times, and has dealt with, meeting in small groups, and just ultimately had to adapt different programming options just based on, whatever different restrictions they've had to experience, of just having to adapt to that. And so they've just adapted and worked with different leaders, and trying to make sure they do it in the best way and safest way possible. And so, we've definitely had to adapt. Our aftercare process has stayed because it's residential, and so they're able to continue on their process. But different things have had to adapt in different ways along the way, much like we all have here in the States. We've all had to kind of adapt along the way. Our Cambodian team has done it and done so incredibly. And so we actually, here's an example of a combination of state and Cambodian team working together. So much of serving with AIM has been trips, right? I mean, we've done mission trips. That's how I got to know AIM. And so in 2019, I think we had 50 teams come and serve with us. And so it's really been a huge encouragement and resource to our team on the ground in Cambodia. And we haven't been able to do that, right? Early 2020, that was the last trip we were able to have. And so since then, we haven't had teams. And so our team just kind of got creative and said, hey, let's do virtual tours. Let's do a virtual trip. And I know we're not the only organization out there doing that, but it's been a really cool experience to lean on each other, of going, hey, we'll pull teams together, and you guys organize on your side of just, let's develop some interviews. Let's show some tours of the different spaces. We've been able to tour the gym and the school and one of our employment centers, and have interviews with different staff that you might not otherwise get to have interviews with when you're in country, just based on their jobs. And so we've just seen our team collectively come together and go, we can't have our team on the ground, but we can still introduce people to the work going on. And so it's been a really cool opportunity to sit down. And I found myself, I was actually on, we had a virtual call last night. So we're actually having to modify again, just based on current restrictions. We can't necessarily do a tour, but we just did a Zoom call with different people. And so it's just interesting. I found myself on the virtual tours at times taking notes. I'm learning stuff and learning new things and seeing things. So it's been really neat just to see the mentality of everybody on our team is truly whatever it takes. All right, if we got to modify, let's modify. Let's tweak what we got to do, but we still want to continue to do the work. And so we've just seen a continuation of that. And so impressed with our leaders who are leading the different pillars and programs of just continual willingness to go, all right, let's figure it out. And they do. And so, it's been pretty cool.
What has been some of the biggest challenges that has been faced so far within this ministry?
So, I think early on, we were not necessarily welcomed into the community that we started in. It was a street lined with brothels. That's what it was known for. It was the epicenter of child sex trafficking in Southeast Asia. That's what it was known for. And so when we showed up and started to do ministry, our goal was, we want to eradicate this. So it wasn't really a welcome experience early on. So that was a problem. But we had some incredible leaders who started in that community and were just resilient and have some pretty incredible stories of challenges that they faced, but all the while saw God continue to step in and do just some incredible transformative work all along those times. And the church starting and the way the church has been able to serve the community. I think the other part of this is it's a big job. It's huge. And you can easily get stuck in the statistics, right? When you say 40 million people are estimated to be currently enslaved and 1 in 4 is a kid. You just sit with that and you're like, you can get paralysis by analysis. But you just have to keep pressing on and going hey, let's make a difference for every person we can, because that's one more person that is not in that situation anymore. And so the other part is curbing demand. That's a challenge, right? Because it's not always just super easy to do. It's a big issue to tackle. And at times it morphs and shapes and takes on new ways and new, people. And so it's a challenging issue to tackle, is really curbing that demand, is because, again, that's one of the key ways to prevent this, is curbing that demand. And really just continually addressing vulnerabilities. Like, those are big challenges to tackle, because they're not short-term solutions. It's not just let's do this and that's immediately going to take care of this. They're long-term issues to tackle, but our team is committed to doing it. And so those are just challenges, because it's not an easy thing to think, because the issue is so big. It's not just we're going to solve it next week, right? We're gonna just jump and it's gone. And so sometimes it can feel, you can just feel like, are we making a difference? And then you get to kind of hear the stories of recent raids, or you hear stories of survivors who have transitioned out of aftercare, and you start hearing those stories and you're like, okay, it's making a difference. Like, God is continually at work, and we're seeing darkness push back. We're seeing ground gained, and we just have to remind ourselves and celebrate those moments. Like, hey, ground is being gained. And it's even encouragement in conversations like this, where we now know more people are going to know about this. And when more people know about this, more people get involved. And so that's a driving force of, like, the more awareness we can create, the more action we can start to mobilize. And so that's kind of the heartbeat behind it. So, so those are some of the challenges that we're wrestling with, among, just constantly adapting and the challenges that come with that. But we have an incredible team of people that are just leading the way.
Is there anything you can tell me about how these churches are operated? How these churches are getting involved in the community? Is it AIM volunteers that have taken over these churches, or have these churches been started by people in the community, and are they getting involved?
So even go back further in AIM. So AIM kind of started under the umbrella of what was actually Agape International Missions, actually started long before our trafficking arm. So it's kind of almost twofold. AIM for Asia is a church planting organization who's planting churches all over Cambodia. And that's kind of where we started underneath of. And so we now kind of do AIM, which is anti-trafficking work, and they do AIM, which is church planting work. And so it's been an incredible relationship with them, and to see just the work they've done. But the church we primarily work with is called Rahab's House Church. And it was started in, I told you, the building was built in the community. It's a huge building, very tall building. And they had built it with the intentions of it was going to be a hotel for pedophiles, but it never opened. It was never opened. The only thing that has ever operated in that building is AIM, is the church. It was the school at one point, but the school's now moved to its new building. So other different things operate out of it now, but the church is still there. The church has an incredible Cambodian pastoral staff. It has had to modify over time, much like all of our churches here have had to. So I remember going, the last time I was there was in 2018. And I remember that year, during that year, they had built on in the back. So prior to that, we'd met upstairs in a small room, and it was super fun and loud. Well, then they built this new awning out in the back and took what was an old dump area, and it's where they put tile down. They built this giant canopy over top, and we walked back, and like it was hundreds of people, 200-300 people back there doing church. It was incredible, super incredible. Just and so here's what's awesome is the church has done some incredible things and reaching a bunch of people in the area. But they do small groups. They even prioritize even doing mission work. Like they've done collections to give away, like to send to other countries to do mission work. So it's a church with a big heart, not only for their own community. They do the discipleship program, and they do a bunch of the different ministry work into our community, but they also have a heart for beyond themselves. And so it's just been incredible to see them and to just experience that, hang out with that team at times, because it's a team that is just constantly raising up leaders, raising up young adults, giving opportunity, just seeing over time where different disciples I've had the chance to get to know over the years, and seeing how the church has given them opportunities just to grow their leadership ability and capacity has been pretty cool. And so So yeah, the church has a huge heartbeat for the community and just serves them, loves them, supports them, prioritizes them. And again, has had to modify over time and just do church in different ways. And they have, and it's been awesome. So yeah, incredible pastor and staff.
Can you give us a little insight onto where AIM is at in that process of doing this work in Belize?
Mm-hmm. So our country directors are in the country. So they got there in January. And so they've been just and prior to that, they've been laying the foundational work as far as developing partnerships, relationships. So when they hit the ground, it was hit the ground running and get the ball rolling. Because the first priority was starting in the same way we started in Cambodia, starting with an aftercare home. So the goal is to open an aftercare home that has room and capacity for 24 survivors. And so that process is underway. So the facility, they're working on prepping that, getting that ready. Kind of the opening date's a little bit of a moving target just based on how long it takes to get things ready. But in the meantime, our team is working on just deepening partnerships. We've got a number of relationships that have continued just to open doors. I talked with our team down there within the last few weeks, and just remember talking with AT, who's there, and him saying, like, so many doors are opening so quickly. We're just praying for God's wisdom that we would know the right doors to walk through. And so it's just been a really cool thing, and really kind of a confirmation of we're in the right place, just how we've seen God continue to move and go before us and just continue to open doors and present opportunities that have come together. So that's kind of where we are as far as status goes. Like I said, it's a bit of a moving target for when it will open, but we're hoping for later this year that we would be able to start that process there. And then the ministry will grow and build based on opportunities, partnerships, things like that. So, but first step is aftercare home. And so that process is underway.
Mark, can you tell us a little bit about one, what you do personally for AIM, what your job consists of, and what some other jobs might look like there on the home front?
So I work with church partnerships. So my primary focus is really blending my background in the church with my heartbeat for AIM, and just helping churches get involved in the work AIM is doing. And so that's been a big heart, because our vision is, we believe that Christ through his followers will bring an end to human trafficking. And so part of our heart is to mobilize the local church. So that's part of my job, is just helping develop and cultivate partnerships where we can help the local church mobilize their people in the fight to end trafficking. So that's my primary role here. Different folks in the States. We've got all kinds of people. We have people that help develop storytelling resources, to helping do the administrative side of work. Most of our team here is heavily administrative, just helping do a lot of the details, paving the way for our team on the ground, so that they don't necessarily have to tackle all those details. And so that's a large part of what our team does here. We build partnerships, raise support, things like that, so that we can continue to advance the work being done. So that's a lot of the work we do here stateside. And so a lot of our team's out in California. So I'm here in Kentucky. So I get to do a lot of these calls with our team over in California.
You said it yourself. AIM believes that this issue, this subject of trafficking, can be solved through the hands and feet of God's people working. And so you have provided a lot of resources to me, and resources that I will put in the description of this video. There's a 5-day devotion that you gave me, and each of those has a video that shows a lot about the work, and you can visually see some of the raids that they do, but also, more importantly, the transformation that happens, and some of the testimonies from these girls. And I was just awestruck at the transformation I seen from the first day of this devotion. It's a 5-day devotion to the end. And it's like, this is real life, real people. And Mark, if you don't mind, can you just share with us some of those ways people watching can get involved with AIM?
Yeah, so we kind of break it down into 4 ways: give, shop, share, serve. Give, right? Give goes a long way. It really does. And so we have a monthly giving program people can be a part of. There's all different kinds of give options. Shop, like I said, the survivors and the gals that work in the employment centers, they make different apparel. So like the shirt, AIM Apparel, is different ways that they're learning job skills. And so they make high quality products that you can purchase. And through purchasing, you get to support the work that they're doing, but also you get to help offer protection for those who would otherwise be susceptible to trafficking. So Shop is a big deal. And there's jewelry, there's apparel, all those kinds of things that again, and they all tell a story because they're all made by someone, and you get to see the person who made it. Like, you get a tag that has their name on it, they sign it. And so it's kind of cool to be connected to their story, to know that you were a part of their story into that. Share, we just talk about, like, bring awareness, right? We have a ton of different tools. You've talked about the devotion. We've got a bunch of videos. We have a documentary that's coming out. We're doing screenings at churches right now. Like, we have a bunch of ways that we're trying to say, hey, share about what's going on. Make people aware of what's happening. Like, let's help open people's eyes so that we can all get involved. And then serve. Really, ultimately, we would love teams come over, serve with us, but we're not there yet. But what does it look like to serve where you live, right? We've developed an action guide. And through that action guide, we're trying to help people in twofold. One, grow your awareness and education of the issues, right? Help me understand the issue on a global scale. Help me understand the issue on my local level. Like, what does it look like here in the Wilmington area, in Ohio, all of those types of things. But then we want to break it down into tangible action steps, because sometimes it's the issue seems so big and we're like, I'm not qualified. Okay. That's easy to convince ourselves of that. But the reality is each one of us can do something, right? There is a way we can address vulnerabilities in our community, right? There's ways we can confront demand in our community. How can we do those things? So we've developed this action guide to help people think through those things and identify ways that they can take action. They can, all that stuff. So the action guide is based and built around very, very tangible ways an individual can get involved with AIM and with local organizations doing the same type of work. So our heart is, we want you to help you get involved locally and globally in the fight to end trafficking. So yeah, again, those are all links that you can throw out there for them. And those are free resources that we've created that we want to make sure we get in the hands of people who go, hey, we want to help you mobilize and be able to see. And really, ultimately, our goal is to help you get started. So we have a resource that's a part of this process that's just you developing your own action plan, where we're going to help you just take a journey through a few different questions to help you think through how you're wired and what you're passionate about and what opportunities you've learned about, and then develop what are your 3 action steps that you can take locally and globally. Because we really want to empower people to get involved and really identify what those things could look like for them.
Mark, what are some prayer requests that we can pray specifically for?
I think, protection over those who find themselves in vulnerable situations, right? Through the pandemic, we've seen a ton of vulnerability taking place. And so we would really, appreciate those prayers over those that are finding themselves in those scenarios, those situations. Praying over those who are in aftercare, that they would experience the transformational love of Christ. Like, that is just priority number 1 for us. And that they would experience that, feel that, find that and feel that. And ultimately, provision and protection over our teams on the ground. They have to adapt to a lot, and it's challenging in so many ways. And that's ultimately for our team in the States and the team overseas, just because there's so many different things that we encounter. There's a ton of spiritual warfare that we find ourselves facing, no matter what part of the organization we're in. We talk through that as a team. We meet every Wednesday in the stateside team to pray together, to do devotions together, to prioritize that, to pray over our team in Cambodia and in Belize, because we know that this is important work. But we know that there's also spiritual warfare that comes along with it. And so we're praying over that. And we would appreciate prayers for that as well. Just knowing that that's a big deal, both here at home and also in the places we serve.
And Mark, is AIM they're on social media, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe I follow them. Yeah. So I will also tag their social media on here, give them a follow and keep up with what's going on, and join them in the fight. Mark, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity.